Hello, hello, my dear listeners. Welcome to the healing station. Here at the healing station, we receive our healing. We receive our healing for physical problems. We receive our healing for psychological problems. We receive our healing for emotional problems. We receive our healing for mental problems. We receive our healing for emotional problems. Here at the healing station, we begin to enjoy the best of health because God begins to do a repair work, repairing our bodies and makes us whole. He makes us whole again. He repairs our bodies, He repairs our ligaments and our tissues and our organs, excuse me, and makes us whole again. Here at the healing station, God begins to do a restoration, restoring to us what we have lost. He does a restoration work, restoring to us what we have lost. He makes us whole. He comforts us, He redeems us, and He provides a permanent solution to our problems. Today, we are talking about less is more. We are saying less is more when God is involved. In 2 Kings chapter 4, this woman cries out with a great cry because she's a widow. Her husband died and left her in debt. And now the creditors are coming to seize her sons to turn them into bondsmen. She is crying with a great cry. And she comes to Elisha the prophet. And Elisha asks, "What can I do for you? What is this that you have in your house?" She says, "I have a pot of oil." A pot of oil. There's nothing in my house other than a pot of oil. And he says, "Go borrow vessels. And don't borrow a few. Go borrow vessels, don't borrow a few, and begin to pour the oil into the vessels and shut the door." So the woman goes to her house, to her house, and they borrow vessels and they shut the door, her sons and herself, and they begin to pour the oil into the vessels, and they pour and pour, and they pour and pour, and the vessels fill up with oil. The vessels fill up with oil until she looks up and says, "Bring me another vessel." And the son says, "We have run out of vessels. There are no more vessels." And she goes back to the man of God and says, we now have vessels full of oil. What do we do next?" And the man of God says, "You shall sell this oil, and out of the sale of the oil, you shall have enough money to last you for the rest of your lives." So she goes ahead and begins to sell the oil. So out of the pot of oil, we now have many vessels full of oil, and she will be selling these vessels of oil, and that is the end of her problem, her lack, the end of lack, the end of scarcity. A solution has been found, a permanent solution to her debt problem. She will no longer be in debt. To her poverty problem, she will no longer be poor. To her scarcity problem, she will no longer experience scarcity. God has provided a lasting solution to her problem, a permanent solution to her problem. Less is more when God is involved. Out of the pot of oil, now she has more. She has many, many vessels that are full of oil for her to sell. That's why we are saying less is more when God is involved. In Matthew chapter 14, a great crowd has followed Jesus. And now the disciples are saying, "Let's disperse this crowd. Let's tell them to go home and look for food elsewhere." They are hungry, but they look for food elsewhere. But Jesus says, "No, we are going to feed them ourselves. Tell them to sit down." So they sit down. A little boy offers his food, his lunch. He had carried 2 fishes and 5 loaves. And Jesus blesses this food and breaks it and tells the disciples to distribute it among the people who are now seated. And God, God does a multiplication work so that everybody receives a portion of the food, enough to eat and even enough for everybody. Out of the 2 fishes and the 5 loaves, a crowd of 4,000 men plus children plus their mothers, they eat to their satisfaction. They eat and they are full. And what's more, fragments remain. And Jesus says, "Collect the fragments so that nothing is lost." Today we are saying that God has done a multiplication for so that the food that was little is enough, because Philip had asked and said, "What is this among so many? What is this among so many?" But the food is enough because God has done a multiplication miracle so that everybody is able to eat to their satisfaction. Today at the healing station we are saying that God is in the business of doing multiplication. All we need to do is involve Him. Involve Him in our lives. Involve Him in our finances. Involve Him in our provision. And then begin to experience uh, uh, plenty, so that we never suffer again. We shall never lack again. We shall never suffer again. We shall never experience scarcity again. Instead, we shall have a permanent solution to our issues to our issues of financial provision. Never again are we going to suffer from scarcity or lack or poverty or debt. We become debt free. So this widow woman becomes debt free, and this is a permanent solution that God has provided. Never again we should go back to debt. Never again we should go back to poverty. Never again we should experience scarcity. God has done a permanent thing. God has moved into her situation and made a permanent provision, has provided permanent provision. Today at the Healing Station, we are saying that God is in the business of providing permanent solutions to our financial problems. And then as we involve Him, we find that less is more. We find that less is more. Out of the little that we have, what is this that we have? What is this that we have in our houses? What is this that we have? What is this that we have with ourselves? Maybe it is that skill. Maybe it is that skill. Maybe it's that career. It could be a small career, or it's this business. It could be a small business. But or it could be this idea. Maybe it's a small idea. Maybe it looks like a small idea to generate income. But God is able to turn this around and make it a permanent thing, so that we enjoy permanent wealth, we enjoy permanent provision, we enjoy permanent financial security. Thank you very much for listening to me. Kindly follow and like and share and subscribe and comment, and then go ahead to involve God in your finances and see if He will not turn less into more, and if you will not bring permanent solutions to financial difficulties. Thank you very much. Until we meet again, bye bye and God bless.